seems to be some kind of shrine that I found in this place. In the middle of it, there's a book written in a foreign language that I can't seem to understand. I have so many questions that I don't even know where to start. There's this weird feeling I have ever since I entered this place. Feeling all my blood run through my veins. I don't know what's scarier. That or all the different rules and writings I don't understand in these books. There's an entire library waiting to be explored at the top of this tower. Some kind of magic crystals floating in the air. Hundreds of books that I can't understand. Once the morning fog lifted, we make out another island in the distance. Still really have no idea what awaits me at this place.
So in the last couple of weeks, I've been working on this starter island with our starter base on top. And in the last episode, I've been finally able to finish the first version of it. It actually turned out quite great, and I got a lot of positive feedback to it. Yet there is still one huge problem, and I don't mean all the detailing that I still have to do at some point, but there is an important part of the build basically missing completely, which is why I'll be adding a second island in today's episode, together with a build on top of course, as well as connected by the broken bridge to our first island. And I already have quite some ideas in mind for today's build, which is why I'd say we'll start right away with the material gathering for the little island, since that won't take as long, since I won't be needing to gather as many resources because I still have some from the last episode luckily. So I'll just grab the only beacon that I have real quick, and then it's time for a little boat trip to a nearby island to not only stock up on natural resources like grass, dirt and stone for terraforming, but also dark oak wood as well as leaves for eventual detailing and foliage. And if you guys are wondering, I actually chose this spot to gather resources, because there's a huge lush cave below, which I might be able to use for a future build eventually. And the cave contained moss, which we definitely do need in today's episode. So after farming the last bit of moss and acacia wood, I brought back all the materials, and it actually seems like I do have all the materials that we need for the island together now. Which means there's only the building part left. So I'd say we'll jump right into building the terrain of the island. That shouldn't actually take as long to build, since the island today is a bit smaller than our last one. And that should actually do for our little island. It's not as large as already mentioned, but on the other hand, we'll have quite some stuff underground, which in fact will be a dragon nest inside the underground cave that we have over here, as well as some parts of our base that might be underground. We do need quite some farms. We have literally none except a little bee farm, a honey farm, so that's definitely needed. I haven't done the transition from land to water yet. There's still quite some stuff we have to do. Detailing not done at all. But we do have quite some other priorities at the moment. Since I will have to travel quite a distance for all the materials that I need for today's build, number one priority right now is definitely an elytra, or multiple actually. Which means I'll have to make my way to the end, eat the Ender Dragon real quick, and go to some end cities to get one or multiple elytras. Luckily for me, I do have some blaze rods and some ender pearls, which means I can easily find my way to the fortress. And after grabbing everything needed, it's time for a small adventure now. Luckily, the fortress wasn't too far away, and it didn't actually take as long to find. That's it, I guess. Quickly beaten the Ender Dragon, and with the XP the tools are finally getting repaired as well. So let me just grab the Ender Dragon egg real quick, and after I'll just store it away safely, just in case if I were to fall into the void, which I do not hope for, but it's just a safer thing to do. But for now, it's time to get myself a couple of elytras and enough shulker boxes to store the building materials and resources for our rather small builds. So I'm making my way to the nearest end city, which luckily only took a couple of minutes. But don't worry guys, I won't torture you with a montage of me killing hundreds of shulkers, so I'll just grab the elytra and we'll get out of here. And that concludes our end trip. And aside of 3 elytras, we do have quite some shulkers now, which should make building and resource gathering quite a bit easier. And we can instantly use them, since resource gathering is actually what we have to do in order to continue today's build, because there's a couple of things that we're missing. So let's jump right into it. I first of all need a couple of things from the ancient city, and not just Skulk and Swift Snake. I also need a skeleton skull for some detailing. Well, that was quick. I was just applying from the warden over here, and we'll just get some Swift Snake and we're good. Next up are the Tricky Trials, which are literally right next to the ancient city. And with all the copper obtained, we only need a bunch of prismarine, barkwood, and tons of other materials. And a couple hours later, and tons of crafting done. Seems like we got all the materials we need now. And with all the shulker boxes filled, there's only one thing left to do, which is building. So I'll just grab all the shulkers real quick, and let's say we go straight to building. So I'm actually pretty much done with the Dragon Cave now. Also decided to add the crystals on the outside already, as well as parts of the Dragon Egg shell close to the water over there. And aside of that, the only thing I still have to do eventually is, once the vines have grown around the cave and inside the cave, is basically cutting them down with strings. The inside is pretty much done too. As said, it's basically only the vines that are missing. Decided to go with carpets for mob proving, since it's quite dark in here, and not just because of our lower brightness, but with a rather low brightness, the atmosphere just feels a lot better, in my opinion. It just has this mysterious and dark kind of touch that you just don't really have with full bright, so I pretty much prefer it this way. Which is also why I cut down on light sources and basically only use a couple of candles, some sea lanterns, as well as glow lichen. But yeah, I decided to go with pillars for support and keep everything else quite naturally. And on the left side of the cave, you can see I went with quite some crystals made out of a mix of copper, bark wood, and prismarine, as well as some glass. And in front of the crystals, you can see 3 little dragon eggs, or 2.5 since one has already hatched, made out of copper or weather copper, basically to symbolize the aging effect or the state in which the eggs are in until they hatch. To create a better atmosphere, I decided to go with blackstone for the darker parts, as well as skulk, which definitely adds a lot to our already existing copper, bark wood, and prismarine mix over here for the crystals. The colors just fit so well together. Okay, so I decided to go with it, since it adds this kind of mysterious look, this kind of mystical look, and it just adds a lot to the atmosphere. Especially once you turn on shaders, as you can see. And of course, I can't forget the little dragon skull over here, or the dragon skeleton, which I put into the floor with some glass layers. Made some kind of fog effect, make it seem as if the cave was a lot deeper than it actually is. And I just had to add dragon claw as a little detail to kind of finish it off. And of course I added quite a bunch of foliage to make this place at least a bit overgrown. It's not as much. I could have added a bunch more, but a couple of leaves and vines together with the moss kinda do the job. And I feel like it's the right amount of foliage for a cave. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the little dragon cave, and I'd say we get right to the next building part. Actually, doesn't look as bad with the ruins finally added. I mean, we're not done yet, but we have the main build on top of the island, basically a little Colosseum build, as well as the broken pieces in the water. The ones from the Broken Bridge as well as the one from the Colosseum. But you can still tell that there's quite a bunch to do, not just on top of the island, but also underground. So we'll get right to that part now. And that actually concludes our underground lab, which contains quite a bit from shelves on the left side to machines or actual farms for the bush, the firefly, and the wildflowers on the right side. And of course, that's not the only two things that we have in here, since I really tried to make this place quite cluttered as well as atmospheric. We only have candles and crying obsidian as well as skulk veins for light sources to make this place darker and a little bit mysterious. And to create the feeling of an actual underground lab, we have some little experiments on the shelves, like the dried ghasts over here, or the wither skeleton skull in the glass, as well as mutated plants on these shelves over here. Basically just to sell the idea that this place is all about experiments or mutations on plants and animals, for example, as well as inventions, kind of. Since the heart of this place is basically all about the invention of the elytra over here, which has basically been invented by the people that live on these islands for the past hundreds of years. After taming and raising the dragons they found in these waters, they kind of wanted to have wings themselves, which led to this lab being created and the experiments on the wings of the fallen dragons. And that's pretty much most of this island's lore, I would say. And I'm actually pretty happy with how the lab turned out. I mean, aside of the little farms over here, it's not just technical, but the atmosphere also just turned out really great in my opinion. And detailing this place, like adding this little book about mutations over here, for example, was actually a lot of fun. But of course, we're not done yet, since the detailing on the outside is still kinda lacking. There's a bunch of foliage and color missing, which is why I'd say we get right to the detailing part on the outside. There's actually not too much left after adding leaves, vines, and flower fields, so I'm basically just adding patches of dirt, break up the green a little more, and create more color variety on the island. Besides adding all the foliage on top of the island, I thought it would be a great idea to also add some greenery in the water over here, as well as adding some driftwood that was washed ashore to create a small sense of time and liveliness. And with all the foliage in place, it creates the Oregon look I tried to go for. Makes it feel a lot more alive and populated in terms of plants. But that's it for this episode of building. All the foliage and decorations added, and leave this area over here for now. Aside of all the terrain and nature related things, the main build finally coming to life as well now. Once I added the detailing and fixed up some minor mistakes. Over here in the main room of the build, I decided to put down a heavy core as some sort of ancient relic that might have been connected to magic in some sorts. But aside of that, there's not much going on here. Finishing builds like these though is probably my favorite part about building. Especially after putting in hours and hours of work into them. Seeing your own build come to life, or your entire world come to life, just a different feeling. You just have to experience kinda. But if I gotta be honest, I can't even really tell which part of the build my favorite is. Really laugh, but I'm not really sure. I feel like mostly all of it turned out quite good, but you guys let me know what you think of the island in the comment section. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Going to an end, I wanna thank you guys for watching. I really hope you all enjoyed the video and the process of how this little island came to life. And yeah, you guys let me know any ideas for future projects, and I'll see you in the next one.
I have no clue what I'll find over there, but I gotta find out more about this place, so time to go on the second island.